Good afternoon, and welcome back to the Asian Refining Technology Conference Digital. We're delighted to have you all with us today in the second part of today's session. I'm Natalie Chu, editorial and project lead for this year's Asian Downstream Summit, and it is my pleasure to be your host for today. This afternoon, we're going to be taking a look at maintenance and OPEX and achieving operational excellence in today's economic and environmental landscape. We'll also be delving deeper into topics, including how we can build operations team performance, AI-powered decision-making, and the use and functionality of AI and automation in predictive maintenance. So we'll be examining these themes with a fireside chat alongside our two speakers, Zuhair Hassan, Head of Area Maintenance Refinery at Pengerang Refining Company, and Travis Rogers, Plant Manager at Chevron Phillips Chemical Company. So I'd like to invite Zuhair and Travis to turn on your camera and microphone, please. Hi, Travis. Hi, Zuhair. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So for our attendees today, just like this morning, you may feel free to ask questions by typing into the chat box at the bottom of your screen. We'll be having a discussion as well as a Q&A session that's going to be happening live, so feel free to ask away. Without further ado, let's get into the session proper. So perhaps to start off, let's learn a little bit about the both of you. Could we get an introduction to yourself as well as what you do? Maybe we can start with you, Travis.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Travis Rogers. I'm the plant manager at Chevron Phillips Singapore Chemicals here on Jurong Island in Singapore. I'm a chemical engineer by trade, originally from the United States, born and raised in Kansas, right in the middle, and then lived most of my career in Texas as well as Saudi Arabia. Did a stint over there. Chevron Phillips primarily produces ethylene and polyethylene. So my career has mostly been on the polymer side in operations. I've got 17 years of experience and have been here in Singapore for 2 years as plant manager of our facility here. I'm happy to join you today.
Thank you, Travis. And what about you, Zuhair?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Natalie, and all the attendees and participants today. Good afternoon. My name is Zuhair. I'm from Pengerang Refining Company, a JV company between Petronas and Saudi Aramco, located in Pengerang, Johor. I've been in this field for more than 20 years. My background is electrical engineer, and I involved in full cycle of oil and gas field and phase, from engineering, detail engineering, construction, procurement, commissioning, and now maintaining one of refinery plant in Pengerang. So happy to see you and enjoy this forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think just to kick off, we're looking at the term of operational excellence. And, how would you define this term? Like maybe let's start with a bit of a baseline. Is there a definitive definition for this term?
Yeah,
Perhaps we can, Travis?
Sure, I'll start. I think operational excellence really is everything that we do. It integrates safety, environmental health, security, reliability, quality. When you think of a manufacturing landscape, it is how we do all of these things well and incorporate them into our management processes. It also involves continuous improvement. So it's not a one-time thing. It's something where you refine that. It's a bit of a pun there for Zuhair. You refine that over time and find out how to continue to do things better through like plan, do, check, act, or any auditing processes. So it's all encompassing about doing the right thing the right way every time for safe and reliable operations and quality production for our customers.
Right. Zuhair, is there anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think if we talk about operational excellence, is as Travis already mentioned, is consists of everything in organizational process or phase. For example, as we can refer to one of the prominent figures from Japan, which is Shingo. When he talk about operational excellence, he talk about these four main items, which is something that we can do better to make things easier, better, faster, and also cheaper. Okay, in general. So there are guiding principle from Shingo, which we may discuss or elaborate later after this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I certainly expect that we will be delving into that a little bit more later. So, going off of your definitions of operational excellence, what do they mean? Well, individually to Chevron Phillips as well as to Pengerang Refining Company. Maybe Travis, we'll start with you first.
Yeah, sure. So as I said, it's everything that we do and the way we do it. We have an operations excellence manual that is owned really at our corporate level. So CPSC here in Singapore is part of the joint venture Chevron Phillips, and so we incorporate a lot of our standards and procedures from that corporate level. So we say there's a right way to do things. You know, those important things related to, especially like I said, safety, health, quality, reliability. We ensure that those are documented, and actually each of our procedures at the plant level, so how we execute the work every day, whether that's our safety procedures, our requirements for work permitting, or requirements for our life critical standards, we actually manage that through OE. It's in our OE systems manual. So when you ask what does it mean to us, we can't work or live without it, because we ensure that all of the activity that we do is aligned with our OE standards, and is documented through that management process and system.
All right. And yourself, Suhar?
Yeah. Okay. From our experience, we actually in our organization we have emphasized and focus on 6 pillars in order to achieve operational excellence as a whole. First pillar is about HSSC excellence, and then about GRC excellence, and operational and organizational excellence itself, commercial excellence, sustainability excellence, as well as people excellence. So all these 6 pillars we combine to ensure that from top down, from the top management until all the working level staff, to inculcate all these 6 pillars in their day-to-day activities and whatever they do in the company or in the organization. So, for example, when we talk about the safety, it's will consider as one of the item that we always put uh, in first priority. So that's why HSSC excellence is the first pillar that we should or must consider in our organization. So I think that's all for now.
All right, thank you very much for sharing that. And I think we've also looked at how, as Zuhair has mentioned just earlier in our conversation, that OE really comes down to making things better, faster, cheaper. How exactly would you say like modern technology has helped you to improve safety performances or efficiencies? Anyone wants to start with this one?
Okay, maybe this time I will start. Okay. Um, Nowadays, we are or we were introduced with many new technologies, like, for example, AI and any other innovation that we can what they call involve or use or applied in our organization or in our site activity. Okay, but in the first place, we have to back to basic. For example, in our company, we emphasize as one of the 6 pillars. We also emphasize on the what they call OEMS, which is organizational effectiveness management system, where this system we consolidate all the procedures, documents, important and essential documents in this system, so that all the stuff top down we can refer to this, and this is like so-called a bible to all the stuff, where anything we can refer to this document or system, we can refer, and we can use that in our day-to-day activity to ensure that we do not sacrifice or compromise any safety issues, commercial, as well as in as a whole operational excellence objective or target. Okay.
All right, thank you, Zahar. What about you, Travis?
Yeah, I think one thing I would add, faster and better and cheaper, safer is another important element to this, which ties in with all of that. I think, when you ask what OE means to us, I think most importantly, it's about the people knowing that where they're coming to work, that they're going to have safety, security, and they're going to have a job that will last. So all of that helps us to be better. One project that we implemented here about a year and a half ago at my facility, I'm really proud of, which is a great example of modern technology, was some facial recognition scanners that we use for employee accountability, meaning like for an emergency. So when I walk into the plant each day, I walk in front of this camera and it scans my face. It takes about 1 second. And every employee who comes in does that. Visitors will scan a card. And then in the event that we have an emergency, if we have an alarm that sounds and we need to do a muster or head count drill, we have a system that can immediately tell me who's in the plant, which area they signed into. And then when we do that muster, they stand in front of the camera, a different camera again, and it can pull all those people aside. So when we test this out, in between 5 to 10 minutes, if we have about 200 people in the plant, in 5 to 10 minutes, I can get an accurate count of the 3 people that have not scanned in. And so instead of working with paper that we've always done and rosters and trying to figure out who's on shift that day and who's sick that day, where it might take half an hour or an hour to know whether we need to go find somebody, we know in about 5 to 10 minutes. And so that's a great example of technology that can really be the difference between life and death in the worst case scenario in a plant. If you need to know who to look for and where to look, or just if you need to look at all, as opposed to focusing on different activities, knowing where our people are that they're accounted for it's quite amazing. Been very happy to see that project successfully implemented.
It does sound very amazing. And I think there's an interesting point there about shifting from more manual based, more traditional working processes to the more modern ones that you have implemented in the plant. But before we get to that, I did want to talk up a little bit about the safety that you've mentioned. And, well, COVID-19 happened, we were all under remote work. So what challenges to OE did you face respectively? Maybe we'll start with Travis first.
Yeah, so I moved here during COVID.
Yeah.
September of 2021, I arrived in the 2-week quarantine with my wife and 3 kids, 2 weeks in the hotel, and then, got out. And at that time, our restrictions were no more than 25% in the office. So for me, as a leader coming into an organization, not being able to really go out and meet people and understand their needs. And even for the leaders that had been here to be able to provide field presence, I think was probably the most challenging to me. Obviously, the health restrictions were critical and necessary. But when you think about everything that we aim to do day in and day out, working in a potentially high risk, environment, the chemicals and the major equipment, they don't care that there's a pandemic, right? The risk is still there. So how we manage that was really challenged in making sure that we could have the right amount of field presence while still protecting people. So keeping our precautionary measures in place and staggering who could be where. We also minimized some high risk work, and there are projects that got deferred mainly because it wasn't worth putting people at risk to do that. But then that's left us with a lot of catch up, since that time to ensure that we can finish things that we need to be reliable for the long term.
Right. And Zuhair?
Yeah, I think quite similar situation during COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Back in April 2020, I still can forget when we have to pursue or to proceed with the troubleshooting and rectification of one of our switch gear in substation, where the specialist is far away from our side at Sarawak, and somehow also a specialist from other country. So we have to do the troubleshooting remotely, where we use the technology at the same time. So it's also benefit of the doubt. So we can use the software remotely, where at the same time we do a video conference from a site. But the challenge also there, where we have to reduce manpower, and we have to work alternately a week. They have to be at site, and the other weeks we have to allow them to go back to their home. So there's the challenge that we were facing, but we managed to overcome all the challenges, and finally we managed to complete all the tasks and all the rectification works done at site during COVID-19.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I think when it comes to remote working, especially during the pandemic, we did see the rise of, well, a lot of newer technologies. For example, just what, 3, 4 years ago, having a webinar over Zoom would be relatively unthinkable. So, in terms of for OE and for like best practices, would you say that the implementation of newer technologies has been maybe more help than hindrance? Because I think there are also points to note there in terms of a learning curve, especially for perhaps older workers in the plants and in the fields. Maybe I could get your thoughts on that, starting with Zuhair.
Okay, I think due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it has teach us how to work, even though we are not in physical contact or face to face. So we still can do things efficiently with the correct guidance and good leadership, where the things or the activity at site have to be planned and managed properly, and somehow we may need to have a meeting or online meeting more frequent than we have physical meeting before
Mm,
pandemic situation. But that's the mitigation of doing things, what we call new way of working. uh, the ultimate Our ultimate is to perform the job or activity at site to achieve operational excellence. So I think it's that is a challenge, but with a good leadership, mitigation, planning, so we managed to overcome all this challenge.
I see. Travis?
Yeah, I think it's really a balance. Absolutely, the technology has provided us opportunities that we did not have before, such as this webinar. Again, I work for a global company, and in the past, I think we were a lot more disconnected here
Mm,
on the other side of the world, that now we're able to maintain more of that connectivity. And instead of somebody having to plan a trip to come over here, which is a significant ordeal from Houston, Texas. If it's just for one meeting, we can do that easily remotely. Uh, at the same time, I think there are some activities that are meant to be in person, and especially when I think Zuhair kind of referred to that as well. That when you're in an operating plant, there's a lot of things that maybe can be done remotely now, but should not. And so I think there's a balance that we have to find in, again, the field presence, as I mentioned, safety activities. You know, when you do something in the field, you see things that you wouldn't if you're remote and just looking at maybe flow sheets. We also had an experience like he did where during the pandemic, we were able to use some SME resource from the US that we used cameras and tablets to be in the field and oversee a critical project that we had to do when we could not get them here on site. Um, but we don't want to make a habit of that. There are things where just we need the people in the field and together. So we try to take advantage of the technology, but not lose sight of really what should be done for the best effectiveness in a manufacturing environment.
Right. Thank you very much for expanding on that. And I think on an overall level, when it comes to achieving OE, we've definitely looked at how technology can definitely help with this. And yet, at the same time, there's still some things that need to be done in person, the old-fashioned way, if you must. What other factors do you consider to be most important that we haven't talked about? Maybe, Travis, you want to continue with your thought
Yeah,
process?
yeah, I think leadership engagement and commitment is critical. All these things we're talking about with OE, with safety, with reliability, I think they're cultural. If you want excellence, not just operational decency, if you want operational excellence, it's got to be a culture where people understand the role that they play. And, it's not just about me doing my part and that's it. They need to understand what the goal is and where they're going. And so that's where I think leadership, executive down to first level, having that commitment and the engagement to be able to communicate strategy. We call it catch and translate, to be able to understand and then communicate to others what their piece is. I think that's critical for OE to be truly sustainable.
Okay, thank you very much. Zohar, do you want to add on to that thought process?
Yeah, I think I do agree with Travis. Where when we refer back to the guiding principle by Shingo, the prominent figure from Japan. Okay, the first guiding principles or element that he talked about is respect every individual when he talk about operational excellence. So it means that operational excellence is does not only talk about the tools or the system or the technology that we use. It's very closely related to the individual. Okay, so the first item, respect every individual, means that every leader in the organization shall always be a good listener to their staff or their subordinate. And then second item is lead with humility. Still talk about the leadership in the organization. And then the third item is seek perfection. Seek perfection doesn't mean that we are to be a perfectionist, but our ultimate goal or objective is always inculcate in ourselves that we are looking forward to the continuous improvement in our every activity or job or task that given to us.
Mm,
And the fourth one, I just touched about four element out of 10. Embrace scientific thinking. So it's encourage the staff in the organization to think effectively and creatively. Okay.
I see. I mean, certainly these are good principles that we should definitely be following in the workplace as far as OE is concerned. And, we talked a lot about leadership because, the onus is on the leaders to make sure that they're the example we can all follow. But when you talk about having it as part of a larger work culture, would you say it's enough to take a purely top-down approach? Because, in a best case scenario, we would have everyone equally invested in these principles where everyone is equally contributing to achieving OE. How would you say that we can do this, or how can we encourage this? Zuhair, do you want to start?
Yeah. Um, I think um it's very crucial to embark or start a new culture in organization. But like it or not, culture in organization shall be set up in order for us to achieve operational excellence. So, like for example, in our company, we were introduced what they call company cultural belief. So there are 6 elements, for example, result matter, let's communicate, okay, speak up, and etc. So all this culture is actually to be inculcated in the mind of all the staff, and we at the first phase of this cultural belief introduction, we are trying to let the staff to relate all these element to their day-to-day job, task or activity. For example, result matter. So every job that they are doing or performing, they must thinking that they must achieve desired result set by the management or by the team, so that from the culture, when they already inculcate or to be a built-in that the culture will be a built-in character for a long time. Then they will always think of that culture, and they will, I think, from the introduction of this culture till now, the I mean the quality or effectiveness of the staff, I think more better than before. I think that's all.
All right, thank you. Travis, anything you want to add on to that?
I don't think anything needs added. I think that was a great answer.
I think so too. Okay, let's move on to, well, another part of OE, which is to say that, we're becoming an increasingly digitalized workplace. And, we see that AI is becoming more and more common in workplaces. So how do you think this is going to play a role in affecting OE?
I think it's huge. I will say I caution too much of the thought of that AI is just going to transform everything about what we do. I don't think we know quite yet, but in its simplest form, we've been using advanced, computations for a while, and that's growing at a fast pace now. Condition monitoring is a great example. So with critical equipment such as large compressors, we have the instrumentation and now the computational resource available to be able to actively watch. The computer's actively watching where a person's not having to give you some leading indicators for reliability, so that as we do, condition-based maintenance, we've got a better sense of when do we need to put our resources in to not to most effectively address this issue while minimizing downtime but managing risk. I think process monitoring, being a chemical engineer, is one that I really love. Advanced process control is something we've used for a long time, but again, it's just growing exponentially in how we can use it. And you've got computers that really can do what, if you had 10 operators that were the perfect operators focusing on some explicitly different things and communicating together. That's what, you know, AI is doing now. I will say that the challenge is you got to keep in mind, you still need SMEs, you still need people. And we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves to say that we've got this AI, we've got this technology, so therefore the reliability is going to address itself, or therefore the process is going to be fully optimized. You still need people to look, you still need people to evaluate and to train the model. AI is no good without, you know, garbage in, garbage out, right? It has to have the right information to be able to make the right recommendations and decisions. And SMEs will always need to be available to evaluate that.
See, and I think there's a we run into, well, a bit of a cautionary note here, right? As you've mentioned, that AI itself is not the magic solution,
Mm.
where as it's kind of touted to be. You still need people to make sure that it's working fine. And I think, okay, introducing new technology and AI in maintenance activities itself, we have a question from the audience here that I think Zuhair, I think you might want to take this one. So, introducing new technology and AI in maintenance activities is perhaps a lot easier for the newer, more advanced plants and refineries. But how do you deal with old plants and more senior maintenance forces?
Okay. Great question from the audience. Okay. Let me share with some circumstances in our plant. Okay, in Pengerang, basically this is a new refinery and petrochemical integrated complex where it built in 2016 until 2019, startup of the most of the plant. Um, Even though it is a new plant, but most of the workforce or staff in the plant is actually coming from all Petronas plant in all over Malaysia. So yeah, this is a new plant, and mostly the system in the plant is using a new technology, including automation, and also some of them using, I would say, using AI and new other technologies. So prior to the start of the plant, we have actually conducted many training session together with all the vendors, specialists from the technology manufacturer, so that all these senior workforce can join together and learn together with new or young engineers, for example. And at the beginning of the plant startup, we always use a buddy system where even though the senior workforce or senior staff is actually at a higher level, for example, chief specialist. So when he coming to site, he will go together with the young engineers so that they can transfer knowledge and technology, and somehow they also will come together with the specialists from the vendors or consultant to learn that. So now it's already 4 to 5 years. I think it's an efficient way to have a transfer or knowledge technology between young and senior workforce.
I see. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Zuhair. Travis, is there anything else you'd like to add on to this? Any thoughts?
Yeah, just to recognize that it is a challenge. My facility here is an older one, and so certainly there are, you know, implementations, new projects I see that just won't pay out here. And so I think one thing is to recognize what is right for that for your unit, and don't try to force fit something. There's an incredible project that we've developed elsewhere that we're implementing at a lot of our other polyethylene facilities, that for a large unit running high rates and maybe different resins is an obvious payout. But when you look at just the resources that are required, again, everything with AI takes SMEs to help train the model, the resources required to do that just are not going to pay out here. It would be much, much longer. So one of the things I'd say is know when to say no. Know when to recognize you need to have your systems in place that can manage whatever it is, reliability, quality. But don't always go chasing the new technology or the new system if it's not right sized to you.
All right, very good advice, I think. Thank you very much for sharing that. In implementing OE elements in your respective workplaces, what challenges are you currently facing with regard to your company's current economic situation and environments? So maybe let's delve into that a little bit. Travis, you want to share a bit first?
Yeah, I think just in general, as time goes on and you get new facilities being built, like Zahir is now, uh, higher production, higher runtime, higher quality standards. I think even in an old plant, as we continue to try and improve, the bar moves higher and higher. And so when you look at OE, one of the most important things about operating excellence is also just keeping the priorities or the values, as we've mentioned a few times, of personal safety, overall else and process safety. There's a lot of things that come before production. But as our performance continues to get better and better, and we raise that bar, nobody wants to say no. Nobody wants to say shut it down or stop it. And just helping to continue to preach that message and provide positive reinforcement when people use stop work responsibility. We used to refer to it as stop work authority. We actually changed that nomenclature. We call it stop work responsibility because it's not about authority. It's not about saying where you are on the organization chart determines whether you can stop the work. It's a responsibility that each one of us has. And if we don't use it, we're being irresponsible. So I think that's one of the challenges for me when you look at the current situation, especially if the economics aren't great. When things are running well, you want to keep running well. And sometimes we need to recognize that there's a risk that we need to stop. And so encouraging people to do that, and keep those priorities all the time.
Okay. Zahara, anything you want to add on to that?
I think that's all. I think.
All right. So I think just continuing on, Travis, I'll stay with you a little longer on that thought there. So I think just continuing on from that opinion that you shared, how would your company optimize, the maintenance and OPEX resources to prioritize different projects against the various objectives that we've previously talked about for achieving OE? And someone in the audience has asked simply, how do you select the numerous projects which can best meet OE expectations?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of questions hidden in that.
Yes.
One is about prioritization, and I think having a very strong, well-communicated value structure. We call it the operating hierarchy, where we've got a hierarchy that we don't budge from, and personal safety is first, process safety is second, environmental is third, then we get to quality and continuous improvement. And so knowing we're not going to sacrifice something at a higher level in that hierarchy for something at a lower level. So if we have a safety need or a reliability need or a process safety need, we're not going to put that to the side in place of, and instead do something that is a production or quality goal. So we try to reflect that in our budget. And when we do our capital budget, we split that out by what the impact is, whether it's a safety or OE project, whether it's a process improvement, an operational need, quality, so we actually have those different categories, and we keep that in our budget so that at the high level, when we look out, we see what are we spending on safety, what are we spending on operational necessity. That's kind of the catch-all, saying, yeah, maybe it's not safety, maybe it's not debottlenecking, but the production team knows that they need it. And if we see that that's out of whack with our our value structure that we've made very clear and we have to uphold all the time, then as leaders, we have to step in and say, we're not putting our money where our mouth is. And so then the other piece of it is, prioritization. And I think one thing that we're trying to do more and more of, seeing that there are so many different initiatives, we call it initiative overload. There's more that we want to do, or maybe are told that we need to do, than what we have capacity for. We need to find a way to evaluate those against each other. And so we look at the value provided versus the effort it takes to implement. And we actually have a chart even. I mean, we're a company of engineers, right? So we got to put everything in a spreadsheet or a chart. But we do that at a site level where we can say, here's all the things that are out there that we need to attack. And when we put them, on that consistent basis, are we focusing on the things that matter, or are we putting to the side things that are more important, or maybe would be easy to implement? So I think that prioritization is finding a consistent way to measure projects against each other, just to kind of gut check the priorities that you're implementing.
Right. Are there any case studies or any small examples that you're able to share with us in terms of finding this prioritization?
So again, we've got this tool that we're kind of implementing more broadly right now. And one thing that we recognized was we have certain must-do projects that maybe at a corporate level, we're not given the option of implementing this. There's corporate resources that are going towards doing this. And when we put that on this chart, or we score it and evaluate it, we see that some of those must-do corporate items actually rank low. And to say, or at least at my site, we might say, these don't hold the value that other ones do, and I have limited resources. So taking that back to those that say must do and saying, okay, where can I free somebody up? We've done that recently where we said, look, this one project is really important, but I'm not going to put my resources into it. So if there's a corporate resource that can help to address that, we'll go along with it. But we recognize that for us, our effort is more valuable to be put into something else. So that gives you something tangible to be able to make that argument. And we've done that. I won't say what project was that we backed off of, but not every site is going to be equal either. There are other sites that it may be more important, and they should focus on that.
I see. Thank you very much for sharing that. I think, Zuhair, we might be able to ask you this question. So I think in maintenance, like, what are the elements of OE that your company has done in improving company performance and plant reliability? If you can share a bit about that with us.
Okay. In maintenance, our focus is always to ensure that our plant is all reliable. Actually, in the first place is must be safety, and then second thing is plant must be reliable. So we must do all the activities that ensure the plant is reliable and available actually and to allow the production of the product from both refinery and also petrochemical plant. So in maintenance, we have several what they call maintenance key performance indicator, where we track all these KPI very frequent, weekly, monthly, and sometimes in the week we have to track the progress and this KPI. For example, we have preventive maintenance compliance, where we have to ensure that all the plant preventive maintenance is performed as per plan, to ensure all the equipment is reliable and in a good condition. Okay, this is to ensure plant reliability and availability, as I mentioned earlier. And then we have also other item, for example, like timesheet utilization, manpower utilization. and also safety criticality equipment overdue record. Okay, all these KPI is very actually crucial and essential for us maintenance team. And as a head of area maintenance in one of refinery plant, I have to ensure that all these KPI are met, and also what they call thinking of continuous improvement on whatever what else that we can do to get the plant more reliable. That's all.
I see. Thank you very much. Out of curiosity, I actually just want to pose the question to, well, the both of you. Uh, in all the discussion that we've had about when it comes to operational excellence, and we've talked about the different factors that contribute to it, are there any specific factors that you consider to be overemphasized when it comes to the pursuit of operational excellence? Okay, Travis, you're laughing, so I think we can start with you first. I feel like you thought of something.
I don't know. I don't know if that's a trick question. No, overemphasized. I do think the technology piece of it can be overemphasized only because I think it may diminish the role that the people play. And it's I don't mean to underemphasize the advantages that technology can give us, but I think it amazes me when I look back 50 to 100 years as our industry, as we know it today, was really built. And to think that they did this without computers, without email, with it was pen and paper and slide rules, and to see what could be built then, and we have some equipment in my plant that's been running for 40 years, some well, some not as well, but that things could be engineered and designed that well before the advent of a lot of the advanced technology that we talk about today, because the engineering principles were so sound, and the teamwork was there and the hard work was there. And so I think it's not that the technology is overstated or overemphasized, but I think it can detract from the importance of the people who are doing the work and the commitment that they have and understanding that they have of what it is they're doing.
Hey, thank you. Zuhair, anything you want to add to this one?
Yeah, I think when we talk about operational excellence, we always only look at digitalization to all the things inside the plant. So, but that's wouldn't be a case, because it's actually a complementary between people, tools meaning to say technology, AI, and what so etc., and also the work process. So when we improve the work process, we always do PDCA, plan, do, check, act, and also the culture we improve or improvise the culture of the staff, and also the tools that we use in the plant, in the organization, in terms of digitalization, AI, and etc. So I think the combination of these three elements, then we can achieve operational excellence. So uh, we shouldn't, as you said, overemphasize to only one thing. So that's a combination of few elements towards the operational excellence. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I would add one to that I think something that I believe is underemphasized the most would be that continuous improvement piece. As you mentioned, plan, do, check, act. I think the enemy of excellent is good, right? And if we get comfortable with how good we are, and stop focusing on how to be better, um, we'll find that good enough is no longer good enough. And unfortunately, by the time you realize it, it's too late. It's hard to get past it, and usually it comes at the expense of a major incident, an injury, or a shutdown or a release. So I think that continuous improvement piece is underemphasized sometimes, because we can just get comfortable in how good we are.
Okay.
All right. So I think in that sense, like it's really true to see that it's not to say that perhaps one is better or one is not. It's really coming together as a balance, in making sure that we can do better, as you said. I think we have time for one last question. So I'd like to pose this question to the both of you again. To sum up today's session, where do you think the future of OE lies, and what are some challenges that you foresee? I think
Yeah,
we started, yeah. Go on, Travis.
yeah. I think the future. This may sound too philosophical, but I would say the future lies in not forgetting the past. The future lies, I think, in never losing sight of the lessons we've learned, keeping memories alive. All of the advancements that we've had that have gotten us this far have been on the backs of something else, either something good or something bad. And so recognizing, not losing sense of where we are in the grand scheme of things, that these new advancements aren't just on their own a new industry. It's building on what's already there. So keeping those memories alive, because also as we do become more reliant on new technology, if we forget how to do things manually, if we forget how we did things long ago, or even just pre-COVID, then we can really lose sight on how to do what we need to do well, and to be prepared in the times that we need to intervene where technology, it isn't perfect. So one of the challenges, yes, what challenges we foresee as well. I think I keep coming back to the people side, right? The high turnover. We've got some generational gaps that are hitting us right now, where I've got 30 and 40-year employees that are retiring and being replaced by brand new folks at a higher rate than what we've seen, I think, traditionally. So you've got a potential for a loss of institutional knowledge. You can't replace experience, not one for one. And so having the knowledge transfer, you can't transfer experience, but you can transfer some knowledge, making sure that we've got well documented and well established systems, the work processes that we've talked about, so that the new generation, as they come in, they can hopefully build on what the old generation created, and not lose ground there, and continue to raise the bar. Like I said, the expectations keep going up. So that's a challenge that we're undergoing right now, and is going to continue, I think, for a few years.
All right. Thank you, Travis. And yourself, Zuhar?
Yeah, I think in not only in the future, but I think even now we have challenges in terms of first uncertainty and volatility of oil price, and supply and chain disruption, and etc. So during this global economic crisis, we also have resource constraints, where economic downturns often lead to our cut of budget, and then also employee morale and also engagement, where economic challenges can lead to job insecurity. And other than that is change management, where operational excellence always need significant change to organization process workflow. So successfully or managing all of these challenges can lead to increase the morale of the staff or employee. Other than that, maybe to adapt on the new technology that always been changed or evolve day to day. Uh, um, and also lastly, maybe the measurement and evaluation, okay, in times of economic instability. So measuring the impact of OE initiative can be very challenging. I think that's
Hmm,
all for me.
I see. All right, thank you very much for sharing your insights. And unfortunately, this is all the time that we have left. But just before we end up today's session, maybe I'd like to have the both of you just share one or two takeaways that you have from today's session that you'd like to share with the audience. Let's start with you first, Travis.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time to be in industry right now. It's certainly a challenge. I haven't talked much about the economic headwinds, and I know that was part of the
Yeah.
the title of this, but it is difficult. I think the key is not losing sight of what is always important and not being distracted by those things that we cannot control. We can't ignore them. We need to understand the impacts that they have on how we do work. But as we do that, we have to ensure that operational excellence, those goals and the way that we do things, that can't be sacrificed. So from top to bottom, from bottom to top, it's throughout the organization. We have to keep that in mind so that we can make it through this current, these headwinds and get to the other side that we know is there.
Thank you, Travis. Zuhair?
And lastly, nowadays we are also talking about sustainability. So towards sustainable plant environment, we are also have many challenges in front of us. For example, now we are talking about renewable energy transition, environment control, sustainable, even sustainable procurement, and as well as human and people development. Okay, to produce more competent and also capable staff or employee. I think with that, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again, Travis and Zuhair. So thank you both for your time and that very informative Q&A. I think it's been a genuine pleasure on myself, my part, as well as the attendees from today to get to know your insights and opinions with this topic pertaining to the pursuit of operational excellence. So to our audience members, thank you everyone for your time as well as for sending in your questions. If you have any other questions that we couldn't answer today, do write to us directly and we'll be sure to connect you with a relevant speaker. So ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's session, you're going to love our big physical event that we're gearing up for, taking place in October. That is the Asian Downstream Summit and Asian Refining Technology Conference, held in partnership with Singapore International Energy Week. That's taking place in October in Singapore. To find out more, visit asiandownstreaminsights.com. That's all for today. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you in October.